Popoff from the Contrarians here, back again with another edition of Reliving Old Reviews is a useless tool of confusion. I'll leave it to you to figure out where that quote comes from. Well, okay, I'll tell you, Pantera. Yeah, this is the little mini sub show that we do over here where I look at an old album that has become classic over time and see if the actual review from that era got it right. What could they compare it to? What sort of language can you use to talk about albums that might be groundbreaking or milestone or just weird or whatever? So we are looking at a King Crimson album today. This is from Melody Maker, October 5th, 1974, a review by SL. I'm sorry, I don't know who that is. They just put initials in here in Melody Maker. But this is a review of King Crimson Red, famously the last album before the long break, and they come back even stronger, I think, with Discipline Beat and Three of a Perfect Pair. Just saw the Beat show in Toronto a little while ago. Loved it to death. Steve Vai did an amazing job. I couldn't keep my eyes off him. I thought he was just so cool. So yeah, this is the Red album, the last one before the long sojourn, the soul seeking, the wisdom seeking break by Robert Fripp, where he comes up with that awesome Exposure solo album as well in there. But yeah, this is of Red. It is the marquee review. I actually have the actual page for Melody Maker here that I'm reading this from. It gets a headline, Crimzo, Men of Metal. You know, that's a nickname for King Crimson, right? Crimzo. Let's see what SL has to say here, and if he or she gets it right. King Crimson Red. From the title track of this one, it sounds as though all that American hobnobbing with Robin Trauerbrand was an educative experience for all concerned. I guess they toured with Robin Trower. I didn't know that. Interesting idea, though, because this is quite a guitar-y album, right? Seems it wasn't just a matter of Trower copying a few metaphysical licks to mix up with his Hendrix ones, but rather that Fripp, certainly England's most proficient exponent of advanced rock guitar technique, actually learned a thing or two himself by close proximity to some unashamed heavy metal kids. Great point. This is known as the most rocking of King Crimson albums in terms of being almost like progressive metal. Interestingly enough, we've done previous episodes of Reliving Old Reviews on Queen 2, and Queen 2 doesn't get credit for being the birth of progressive metal. We usually give that credit to Rush with Fly By Night and Caress of Steel, but I do hear a little more often King Crimson being mentioned in that light, all the way back to the debut, but definitely with this album. So this album, Red, is considered, but very loosely, right? Very loosely, an album that is part of the birth of progressive metal. Well, not that loosely. If you have to come up with 10 or 20, you have to include it. But it's really, Rush is so much more in the pocket with this idea. And I've always included Judas Priest in here as well, with Sin After Sin, Stained Class kind of thing, right? Okay. In short, the track Red sounds kind of like King Crimson plays the Blue Oyster Cult songbook, which seems unusual to say the least. Disorienting, to put it more succinctly, disorienting to the point where I'm not sure if I actually like it yet. I'll let you know. On to other tracks, Fallen Angel sounds fairly comfortably like a logical successor to the songful pieces of Starless and Bible Black, being superior to those, as it happens, for the addition of Mark Cherig's fluttering and vaulting cornet, which winds around some typically unwieldy Robert Palmer James lyrics and some very interesting guitar-based guitar counterpoint. Incidentally, whatever happened to the Fripp-produced Mark Cherig album? I didn't know about that. That's kind of cool. The first musician to catch the ear on One Red Nightmare is actually Bill Bruford, who plays excellently throughout with a synthesis of post-Jamie Muir percussing, hammering across gongs and metal sheets, and some more conventional, if equally boggling, boogaloo drum kit. Yeah, this is famously the trash cymbal, you know, the cymbal plucked out of the garbage or the bin or whatever it was with the holes out of it. So he says metal sheets, but yeah, we famously remember this album because that boom, 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 down, 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 right? That whole thing, right? Okay, let's see. Very impressive, as are the other component parts of this track, which climaxes with some frenetic alto from Ian MacDonald being cut off dead while in full flight, a device reminiscent of the protege on that CBS Terry Riley John Cale thing of years gone by. Skipping over Providence, which seems primarily designed to underline the fact that David Cross was a passenger for the major part of this extended duration with Crimson, we get to Starless. Highlight of the album. It's a reinterpretation of Starless and Bible Black, title track of the penultimate Crimson studio album, and begins with a gentler melodic variation on the final theme played last time around. Yeah, you know, bringing all this up again reminds me that even in this era, which is more kind of like a power trio album to me, even in this era, but certainly everything before, King Crimson are the ultimate krautrock band who aren't from Germany. I totally believe that. This time there are words and saxophones, as well as blitzing dynamics from the Bruford Wet and Fulcrum, and enough variation to make Starless a valid entry by itself and not just a second take. In total, this is a goddamn good last Crimson studio album, but I must confess to some minor pangs of disappointment. From the inception of the Lark's Tongues band to date, live appearances by King Crimson have totally eclipsed recorded works, and it's a drag that more peak performances haven't been preserved. Hopefully, the upcoming live albums will rectify matters. Still, it's been fun while it lasted, and the subsequent musical careers of Bruford, Wetton, and Fripp are almost guaranteed to be at least as interesting as this high-grade finale, which means nobody loses, of course. So he knew it was the end. That's kind of cool, and really talks about it a lot being the end. And yeah, we know Bruford, Wetton, and Fripp are going to be coming back with lots of stuff, right? Because isn't it? It's post this, right? That that Wetton is in Heap and Roxy Music. I'm not sure, but anyways, Bruford, of course, he becomes great solo artist. We get the great next version of King Crimson, which is incredible. We do get that awesome Fripp solo album, and Fripp doing stuff with Brian Eno. So yeah, they have long careers coming up after this as well, which are totally cool. So there you go. King Crimson Red here on Reliving Old Reviews is a useless tool of confusion. Hit like, subscribe, all that stuff. Join our Patreon, because that allows you into our panels. You can be on this show if you see something you're comfortable enough talking about. Marco sends out this nice list of the topics, so that's just by joining Patreon. You can be part of that stuff and subscribe and all that stuff. And there you go, King Crimson Red.